Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to be honest, I really feel like a failure on this. I delayed this video and stopped uploading a few days because I really wanted to snag a score above 130. I also got quite busy with SOAR, and we're also announcing 3 new creators for Apex Legends this week. I also felt really robbed that it says 130, but it's listed at 129. I've hit 128 and 129 so many times that it actually hurts. I spent 2.5 hours last night trying, and unfortunately I'm just always slightly off. There's one missed shot, I screw up a reload. Something always happens. Because high scores really demand perfection, but at least we have consistency. I have so many clips of hitting 129, it's crazy. Which is the point of this guide, is to help you master this guide of action aim training. Because still 130 or 129 is like top 800 as of recording this, which is around, again, Apex Legends Predator status. So I'm going to showcase my faults, my strengths, and where I want to be to help you improve your aim. In my Discord, we have lots of these discussions, and I work to help as many people as possible. I have a link down in the description down below. So let's begin with some basic tips, and then we're going to go really quickly into advanced tips that really help improve your aim. If you're on console, you're going to have a limitation in terms of speed. Naturally, mouse and keyboard is going to be able to switch to targets a lot faster, but still the foundation can be here to help you improve and master your aim. So apply that same concept, and I promise you're going to find something that's going to be applicable to you. All right, so in this portion, let's talk about really basic tips and things that you see. Some of the biggest tips that you can provide in terms of actually improving your aim on the Scout of Action series here is going to be your field of view. The biggest thing you want to be able to see all the targets in your field of view. So what you can do is increase your field of view so you can see them more around everywhere. If you drop your field of view too low, let's just drop it all the way down to 70 and then you ADS. Some of the targets, especially the ones to the far right or the far left as you're flicking between left and right, disappear. So if they disappear, you don't know if they were to flip, and that's a massive mistake. So in this section that we're discussing, field of view is very important. Now in section 2, to increase that field of view, most people will start to go to different angles and corners to help improve their visibility. The reason why individuals don't get closer is because if you get too close, even with a high field of view, and you flick over to the left target, the ones on the right disappear. You'll notice that in a lot of high scores, you'll see them go to the very far right. It's because all the targets are within a natural field of view. Even if you're up here, you can still see this target flip, which is very important because if you can see it, then you can predict it. The reason why they don't always go here, and some of my scores are actually pretty decent here, is that sometimes if you go to the far left, you'll lose the one on the far right. Now if you go to the far left over here, the problem that you run into is that this target gets blocked in the center, and if you're trying to flick and you make the mistake, you might accidentally hit this target instead, and the same thing happens the one up on the angle over here. So positioning is key. So the best positioning you can provide to help you get a higher score is this positioning. So the very basic tips. And the hardest ones naturally are going to be able to hit are the ones up here. So we're going to talk about flow, and we're going to talk about that now. So when we talk about flow and making sure that you maximize the amount of damage you're able to put out, aka the amount of shots, remember that when you're taking a shot, let's lower this audio so it doesn't blast everyone's ears, is you want to make sure you maintain this speed. This is a speed ideally that you want to keep flicking between targets at. It's not perfect, and most people are not going to be able to do that, because essentially if you're flicking between targets going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that's how you're going to maintain a high score flicking between the two. You got to account for that lag switching between targets, and that's how you're going to continue to improve and to get a higher Scout of Action score. Remember I mentioned that if you're on console, there's only a certain amount of speed you're going to be able to go. So if you're on console, it might be a little slower, but the biggest thing is to maintain accuracy and being able to see the targets and get to them around a sufficient amount of time. If you can do that, ping-ponging back and forth, and you review your footage and you're maximizing that time, then you've reached your peak in what you can achieve and what you can do. And that's not a bad thing, because realistically, you're never going to be flicking between targets this quickly whenever you're in Apex Legends. So it's a bit more of a flex in terms of targets that you can switch to. Now, another tip I can provide is that you want to be able to reload once you have 19 bullets remaining. So the reason why you have the tactical reload and you have the full reload. So if we see the full reload happen, you'll notice that it takes that extra bit of time to reload that extra bullet. But if you go all the way down to 19, you're going to hear the audio switch. There you go. It gets a little louder once you get towards the end there, and then you hit reload, and you'll notice you won't go through that full animation to kind of screw you up a little bit there. And it helps you kind of keep your momentum going forward. When you want to land the next shot, it's always ideal to go into like a nice quick shot into the first shot and then build momentum snapping between targets. The problem that I personally have that I've always found of why I get stuck is flicking between the targets and maintaining the momentum between each target. So sometimes I'll notice in my footage that I actually slow down or I pause to make sure I land the shot, or if I go too fast and I happen to miss a target. And if I go too fast, sometimes I'll be in a nice flow state, but then if I screw up the reload, I go through the full reload animation, and that lowers your probability of getting a higher score. So that starts to nitpick on having the perfect round. You always want to at least unload 19 bullets. You want to make sure that you're bouncing fluidly between the targets and you're maintaining the DPS at this speed. Because remember, if you're hitting between targets, the advanced tips, and you go like this and you freeze for a second, those are seconds lost. You only have 60 seconds to really achieve bouncing between these targets. And so every second that you delay, let's say every second, let's say it's around 500 milliseconds, which is a little long, but still, if you have 500 millisecond lag and you do that for about 100 and let's say 20 targets, you do realize how much that adds up and how much many more shots you can actually add in. You want to find the balance between speed versus accuracy. Remember, the faster you go, the more likely you are to miss, and the slower that you go, the more shots you're going to be able to capitalize on. So if you go too slow and you have 100% accuracy and you're bouncing between these targets this slow, realize that what you're going to be capped at, meaning that you may get 100% accuracy, but your score is going to be still lower. An example is I had 100% accuracy, but my targets that I hit was only 122. But I maintained, let's say, 96% accuracy and got a score of 129. So you have to realize the difference. Another tip that I can provide is going to be your ADS sensitivity, or perhaps your sensitivity that you change for whether or not you toggle or hold. So I've tried both. Holding can help you maintain accuracy, but whenever you hold that trigger down, it can be quite tiring bouncing between targets over the course of, let's say, an hour or two, depending on the amount of pressure that you hold onto your mouse. So the best tip I can provide is bounce between these two. Try switching over to toggle. Sometimes toggle can be quite beneficial in bouncing between targets, and you might need to change your sensitivity. I've even tried changing my ADS sensitivity to maximize on this. I match my hip fire to my ADS, which is my 2x, and I gotten around the same score. You can improve your aim to where you find the same threshold, but see where your strengths and weaknesses are, and maybe these settings might actually work better for you once you're in game. So just some additional tips. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to give you stellar aim when you're in game, but just another tip that you can provide. Because when you're aim training, let's say that you're aim training in like Aim Lab, Kovacs, whatever, insert Aim Lab training scenario here, you're going to find many different ways that you can improve, but you're never really holding down the sight. It's always kind of hip fire. So most people always ask the question, should I practice my ADS or hip fire whenever I'm aim training, aka holding down the right mouse button? And it really depends on your comfort. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve whenever you're playing this, or vice versa. So this is a lot of information. Hopefully it's helpful. We broke down the basics. We covered every single setting, whether it's ADS, in terms of positioning and where you're at and being able to see the targets and flick between the two. The last tip I can provide as we kind of step away from this is the flow, and trying to maintain those shots as fast as humanly possible, and try to practice even as you're flicking between the two of these. But the pressure that you get afterwards, it really slows you down, because you're trying to be accurate, and then instantly whenever you make a mistake like that, it really slows down your momentum. That pressure is something that you do need to practice, and it's something that's really, really important. Whether you're controller, mouse, and keyboard, that makes a massive difference in terms of you performing. Because you see that delay going from even that, essentially it needs to be this fast where you're just kind of bouncing between those two, but your brain also has to process bouncing between those targets. And that's definitely a flaw that I have, trying to bounce between these targets and figure out that flow, because it has the hesitation that I have of why I'm stuck at 129 is the difference between getting an additional 3 or 4 shots in, but could also make the biggest difference of clutching out in Apex Legends, especially where seconds matter. So take all this information for what you will. I'm still going to keep aim training and practicing this. I know where my flaws are, and I want you to help identify where your flaws are. Is it maintaining your accuracy? Comment down below. Is it speeding up? If it's speeding up, go full force into being fast and just flick between the targets and overwhelm yourself. Is it being accurate? Then slow it down. Is it creating a flow between the two? Then try to maintain just a flow and a pace. Even if the pace is slower than the G7 Scout, make sure you have like a pace of going boom, 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 like as if it was a beat of the song. Is it stressing out in these scenarios? And listen to music. I know I listened to a lot of music as I was aim training and practicing a lot of this. Is it the flow of the gun and whenever you need to reload? Those are all questions. Let me know where your hiccups are, and that's the whole point of this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys all in the next one.